peace and light, that old guy Australia, again. But I didn't want to do this. I never want to do any of them, to be honest. I've never wanted to do any of them. And I wouldn't do them if I didn't have your support. And, you know, I want to thank you for that. I thank you for every time you write to me or the comments you make, even if they're derogatory, you know. It's all good. Which brings me to a point. If you've got someone and they're making a derogatory comment, don't worry about it. They've had to partake of the conversation. If they're partaking of the conversation, maybe something will sink into their heads. Maybe they'll read something and it'll, you know, trigger something and they'll begin to look at things a little differently. But don't you think it's interesting? It's really interesting. You can have an opinion on the weather or, you know, certain cars, various foods. You can have an opinion on types of plants to grow in your garden. You can have an opinion on coal, on electricity, on nuclear, on hydro or wind. You can have an opinion on anything. But when you have an opinion on something that's outside the narrative of the mainstream media, nowadays in particular, it's becoming something that is attacked, censored, deleted, smeared, mocked, derided. Don't you think that's interesting? And it doesn't matter if it's politics, or it doesn't matter if it's Ukraine. It doesn't matter if it's the virus. If you have an opinion that's outside the mainstream narrative, you'll get attacked for it. And it just shows the power of the media. Now, I don't understand entirely why people think that suddenly you think you're an expert. Simply when you're discussing a topic that's front and centre, mainstream media 24/7 around the clock. Whether it's a virus, which is drones on and on a daily basis, and now has suddenly disappeared from the media because it's war, Russia, war, Ukraine, war, Russia, war, Ukraine. So if you have an opinion on that, suddenly you're an expert on that. No, you're not. Having an opinion is not meaning you're an expert. And when this all broke out and started, millions and millions and millions and millions of us worldwide kind of went ping. Okay, we know about the Ukraine. We've known about the Ukraine since Alex Jones 12 years ago. This is not our first rodeo. We knew Ukraine was involved in this. We know it's the pit of hell. We know it's a very, very, very corrupt country. We know the Clinton Foundation. We know the bloody Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. We know the UN. They're all involved there. We know that the Bidens are there. We know that the Kerrys are there. We know the Pelosi's are there. We know that the Obamas are there. We know they're all involved in this. And they're not there because they think the food's really lovely and they can ski there in winter. That's not why they're there. These are corrupt individuals and corrupt corporations, and they're there for a reason. Do the biolabs exist? Yes, we've proven they exist. That's not an issue. Ukrainian investigative reporter released all the documentation from the US Department of Defense, because they'd nominated where those funds had been transferred to. So we know those exist. That's a reality, a fact. It's no bullshit. It's not conspiracy. Yes, those biolabs exist, and yes, America was involved with them, and so was the UN, right? And we know about the treaties that have been drawn up over the time because Kiev and Ukraine were always part of Russia, have gone back, thousands of years. And we know what happened in 91, and we know what happened in 2014. These are things that are just general knowledge. They're not conspiracy theory stuff. They're general knowledge. We know about the deals that were signed. The UN was never to be a part of that, and neither was the US. And I don't know why they went in there, but they decided that was the place. It's mafia controlled, so they went in there and that's where they're doing their deals. Now, when this all broke out, we wondered what Vlad was up to. We thought, well, this is pretty weird. Let's hope that Vlad's picked the right time and the right purpose for doing this. Now, the media's not showing you what the intent of those strikes were. They're not showing what installations they hit. They're not talking about the installations they hit. They're not. Now, we know that they were military installations, and we also know that they were biolabs, and we also know they involved the US, and we also know they involved the UN. So these were selective strikes. The media was then intent on showing you a Russian tank running over an innocent civilian, until the Ukrainian government admitted, yes, it was one of their tanks, and it got out of control, and it wasn't a Russian tank at all. Russians have painted big white Z's on the side of all their tanks. Do you know why they did that? See? Do you know why? No? Well, Ukrainian military has old Russian tanks, and they wanted to differentiate and make sure that everybody knew that was a bloody Russian tank there. It's got to be white Z in it. You're not going to shoot your own tank. That's what it's all about. So those tanks aren't even Russian tanks. Then we had a US citizen who was the first innocent casualty of the Ukraine war. And then it turns out in 2016 he'd been killed by the Taliban, and the media was using his picture, and it was just bullshit. And we had a Russian fighter jet got shot down by the Ukrainian army. Then we find out it was 2013, it was a British air show where a jet blew up in midair over the crowd. So this is the kind of bullshit that Channel 9, ABC and SBS are peddling. Now, do they apologise for this? Have they issued retractions for these lies? No. No, they haven't. They haven't. And you have to ask yourself, you have to, I don't care who you are, you've got to ask yourself, why are our media deliberately peddling these lies? Now, is it deliberate? Yes. It has to go through editors and it has to go through management. So why are they peddling lies? What is the purpose that they're pushing this for? Why are they doing this? You know, you can look what you want. You know, we know BlackRock and Vanguard own Channel 9, Channel 10, SBS, ABC. We know that. Even if ABC is public funded, we know what's going on there. We know exactly how that works. Now, this isn't conspiracy theory. These are easily provable facts. It's part of the picture. You know, 24 years ago when we started getting into this, 12 years ago when Alex Jones revealed the virus was to be released at a certain time, and he had the biochemist who came and talked to him and released that footage back then. You know, we knew that these things were afoot. Timing is about everything. And yes, you're right, Ash, we don't know when all this stuff takes place. All this stuff's out there, we all know about it, we just can't figure out. It's coming together like a torch being wound in to a point. There is an agenda, it's called Agenda 30, and that's an actual document signed by our government, It's on the United Nations website. You go look it up. Go and look it up. Agenda 30. You can go look up Agenda 21. You can go look up Event 201, run by the WEF and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in 2018. You can go and look these things up. They're public knowledge. And if you look them up, you will be forced to question what's going on. Now, that's not conspiracy theory if you want to know why things are taking place. That's just human inquisitiveness. And you should want to know, because this is not just going to affect you. This is going to affect your children and your children's children. This is a full-time, full-on agenda these people have got in place. And we are signatories to it. Our government signed on to these things. Let me say again. Our government signed on to these things. We signed these documents. That means we agree with them. Now, you need to go and read them and read what's in them. And when you read what's in them, you might turn around and go, what? Why would we want to agree to this? Why? What on earth? Why would our government sign this? Why wouldn't this go to a referendum? Why are we signing these treaties? Then maybe you'll not look at people like me in a disparaging light. Maybe you'll begin to think for yourself and think, mate, there's some stuff going on here that I need to learn about. Research. Query. That's all. And that's what this is about. It's not about me trying to big note myself and say I've got an opinion on bloody Ukraine or COVID. It's not that. It's me wondering why this is taking place, why it's being formulated the way it is, why it's taking place in the progression that it is. What happened with Donald Trump? You're right, Ash. Why was that not overturned? Well, how did he sidestep all that? Why is he making a comeback now? Why has he launched this new platform? What is his role in this? What is his purpose in this down the track? Why are people like David Harris Jr. peddling that shit and showing those tanks running over the cars and saying it's a Russian tank? Why are they doing that? Why is Bridget Gable broadcasting this stuff? They were pretty good people. Now, I've written to David Harris and asked him for an explanation. Doubt I'll get one, but we'll see. Why are they peddling misinformation when they were supposedly supporting the good guys? See, it doesn't make sense. And that's the big thing about this. You can just go, oh, it doesn't make sense, I'm going fishing. Or you can wonder why it doesn't make sense, and you can tune in to the worldwide chatter that's going on, where a lot of people are doing a lot of work, like that Ukrainian investigative journalist who released the documentation about the biolabs. That was by the US Department of Defense. She found them. The US Department of Defense had those documents and she released them. So yes, they're involved. It's no bullshit. It's not, no need fact-checking. Even they're saying it's not true, it's true. It's a fact. Yes, they were involved. There's 11 of them. They are involved in 8 of them. Biolabs, right on the border of Russia. No wonder Putin was scared. No wonder that when the UN moved in there, no one ever part of that agreement, when the UN moved in and they were doing these biolabs, Putin got worried. Putin got worried. He figured there was going to be a bio attack on Russia at any moment. And he'd warned them and warned them and warned them. For years, Putin warned them. Right? You need to understand that. Now, these were strategic strikes. Let's see what... The media's not reporting on it. You know? They're not. They're just saying it's a war. Putin wants Ukraine. He doesn't want Ukraine. He'll withdraw when he's accomplished exactly what he set out to do, which was destroy these bloody facilities and these military bases. That's what he wanted. That's what he'll do. And he'll leave them alone. He's not interested in taking over Ukraine. It's more to it than meets the eye. That old guy, Australia. Peace and light. Next one up is going to be the bloody fiat currency. And then it might make a little more sense to you what's going on here. Love you all. Thanks. Leave some comments. I'll talk to you about anything you want to talk about. Like and share, and we'll catch you next time.